Good afternoon. My name is Sheena Kennedy, and I'm a PhD student at Carleton University in the School of Public Policy and Administration. And I actually did my MA there as well, so I just started the PhD in September, and I finished my MA in 2009. So what I'm going to present today is actually sort of my MA research and what I did in the interim, which was 2 years working with the community of Igloolik to do this baseline study. So I'm not quite sure what I'll be doing my dissertation on yet. So I'd like to also thank Socio-Economic for their support for this project and also for giving me the opportunity to present what we did. Outside of Igloolik, I haven't actually presented this very often, so go ahead. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, Igloolik is right below that red arrow. It's a community of about 1,700 people in the Baffin region in Nunavut, and it's really a historical crossroads and a meeting place in that region of Nunavut. It's 4,000 years of human settlement there, so quite a history. It's also the home of Isuma Productions, which you might know of, Zacharias Kunuk and Atanarjuat and other films, and also Art Cirque, which is a sort of Inuit meets circus organization that's quite fascinating, and I'll talk a little bit about it later on. And also the Oral History Project, which is another fascinating project in Nunavut that is housed in Igloolik. So there's sort of 4 main strands of research that I've been involved in that are related to Igloolik specifically. The baseline study, which I will talk about mostly today, that sort of fed a lot of my research for my MA, and part of that is also a profile of one of the social economy organizations in Igloolik, the Igloolik Head Start program, which is actually much more than an early childhood education facility, and it's been called the healthiest place in Igloolik, and I'm going to be doing a sort of a short chapter of that profile for a book that I think is being done coming from the Socio-Economic work. So, and the last thing I'm going to talk about is the Baffin Environmental Assessment Community Engagement or Empowerment. We haven't really decided on the E, which is sort of came out of the Igloolik work. So. Okay, so the purpose of the baseline study was to document the local economy in Igloolik as it was in 2009 and 2010. And we wanted to do a fairly comprehensive study that included all aspects of the local social economy, including waged work, unpaid and volunteer work, harvesting, self-employment, and artistic production. We also asked a lot of questions about education and language and other topics like that. The study actually was initiated by the community. I believe that Brian Fleming, who is the SAO in Igloolik, contacted Mary Ellen and said, we would like some data about our community, questions that we want to ask. Do you know anybody that would be willing to take on this project? And Mary Ellen called Frances, and I happened to be in Frances's class that year and was hounding her to give me something to do. So this sort of all came together. And recognizing that Baffin Land, the Mary River Project, and other major resource development projects are coming their way, Igloolik wanted to have information, solid information about their community that they could help them to measure changes over time. So we set the study up as a baseline that could be repeated, and also obviously to help with community planning. Okay, I've sort of already said all that. So there are sort of 5 parts or 4 parts to the project. I spent January to May of 2009 doing a document review and statistical sort of profile of all the existing information I could find about Igloolik. And then in May 2009, I went to Igloolik for the whole month of May, and I just talked with people, met with the hamlet, got to know members of council. I spent a lot of time with Leah Otak at the Oral History Project, going through those files and visiting with various organizations, the schools, the Arctic College, the Hunters and Trappers Association, the local co-op, just to find out what it was that they wanted to know about the community. What were the questions that they wanted us to ask? So I came back and I worked using mostly questions from the Nunavut Household Survey because they'd already been tested, also SLECA questions, and ones that we developed out of those meetings in Igloolik as well. And we designed a household survey, which I conducted with the help of 5 members of the community in Igloolik who conducted the surveys in Inuktitut. And we went door to door to every single household in Igloolik, and we had a 95% response rate. We were on the radio a lot. It was very much a community effort, and it paid off. We had a huge amount of support for the project. That was mostly just population data, demographics. And then I went back to Ottawa, and we took a random sample of about 200 adults from the community. And I went back in January, and with 2 of the same people that had helped us in November, we conducted sort of 40-minute interviews using quite a long questionnaire on, as I said, language, education, wage work, various other topics, harvesting, health and wellness. And we also asked them questions about service delivery with the municipal government and the GN. Following a summer of analyzing all of that data, I went back to Igloolik in September, and I met with various groups to share some of our preliminary findings to get a sense of whether they thought that what we had found was mirrored what they thought was true about the community, and just to get a sense from them about the findings. And this was, I think, the most valuable part of the whole project. And again, I had a gentleman named Francis Piagotic who worked with me throughout this whole 2-week period that I was there. And we met with the Elder Society, the ladies who work at the Head Start, and a group of youth, some of whom were part of ArtSarc. So it was a really interesting experience to speak with them. And then last February, we presented our final report to the Hamlet Council, and there's a copy on display at the front there if you'd like to take a look at it. And this report is available in Inuktitut and English, so we do have electronic copies available as well. And quickly as an update, we just learned that one of the Hamlet councillors from Igloolik has been invited to the Socio-Economic Monitoring Committee meetings, I think this week or next week in Iqaluit, and he is going to be presenting the baseline study to the members of this committee. In 2009, I went to present our methodology at that committee, and the mayors were really interested, so it'll be nice to show them that the project is done, and hopefully they'll still be interested in having it done in their own communities. Okay, so briefly about my MA, as I'm probably running out of time here. I used Igloolik as a case study, and I tried to bring together the literature on the mixed economy with the literature on the social economy to show as sort of a way of creating a framework for community development in Nunavut that focuses on the strengths of the communities rather than the challenges. And included in the research was a series of short profiles on the different social economy organizations, and I also did a sort of a community history of those organizations to get a sense of how the social economy has has changed over time and what its elements are. And as I mentioned, there is a chapter on Head Start that will be, that I'll hopefully be finishing soon. Okay, so this is just a way of sketching out some of the organizations that are part of the social economy in Igloolik, and I thought it would be interesting to show it on a timeline. As you can see, the earlier parts are the churches and the Igloolik Cooperative, which opened in the 60s, along with most of the other co-ops in Nunavut. As we move into the 1970s, we've got the Hunters and Trappers Association and the community radio, which I think is has been a really important part of the social economy in Igloolik, particularly as you'll see when we move into the ISOMA productions, that sort of media and multimedia is quite strong in Igloolik, and how it brings people together, I think, is quite important. The Oral History Project, of course, and then in the 1990s, three of, I think, some of the strongest organizations in Igloolik emerged. We had the ISOMA Productions, ArtCirc, and the Igloolik Early Intervention Project, which is Head Start. And then in the 2000s, ISOMA TV, which you can visit online if you haven't already. It has a nonprofit arm called NITV, Nunavut Independent Television, and they are our partner in Beacon, which I'm about to explain. DID stands for Digital Indigenous Democracy, and that's ISOMA's part of Beacon. And all along, underlaying all of those organizations is, of course, the mixed economy, which is part of the social economy of the North, of course. Go ahead. Okay, so Beacon. Beacon is our latest project, and very exciting time to be part of Beacon. Again, it stands for the Baffin Environmental Assessment Community. Here I put empowerment instead of engagement, again with the E. Essentially, Beacon is a network of academic, community, and industry partners, and we are collaborating to build capacity in northern communities to help, in order for the communities to make informed choices about the policy issues and the economic issues that are facing them in light of environmental changes, demographic changes, and of course, major resource development projects. So the core of the network is a partnership between communities, 7 communities, the ones that have been identified as being directly impacted by the Mary River project, and university researchers, some of whom are here. And the base of the network is really this digital platform that ISOMA TV has established, and we are going to use that digital platform to collaborate, to make, we're going to do a meta-synthesis, a meta-analysis of existing research on topics that are of interest identified by the communities, and change this research into oral Inuktitut, sort of Inuktitut as a methodology, rather than just PowerPoint presentations like this one put up online. So this is sort of about knowledge co-creation and understanding, putting the existing research into a way that's actually useful for communities to use. Another part of this is sort of the co-development of future research projects. So we'll do the bit where we synthesize the research that's been done, and we'll also, together with these communities, identify future research projects and an agenda for research in the North. As a side project, Frances and I are working on a paper on the sort of history of community studies in the North, because I think that it's not just about what the research is, but the way that the research is done is incredibly important. So we've sort of been able to start a few small pilot projects. ISOMA TV was successful in getting funding through the Canada Media Fund, I think is what it's called, for their Digital Indigenous Democracy project. And they really see this as human rights impact assessment, as something moving beyond environmental impact assessment. So it's sort of an interesting shift in the language. And our initial project is going to be on RSV, which is respiratory, I can't say, RSV is a respiratory virus, and it impacts northern communities, particularly babies, at a much higher rate than anywhere else in the country, and actually, as it turns out, in the world. And so we're looking at the link between sort of RSV and housing conditions, and I'm going to be working with one of the young new leaders in Igloolik on turning this research into sort of Inuktitut documentary style films that will be put on ISMA TV. So that's sort of where we're at in Beacon, and we're hoping to get some more funding to carry the project out. So that's sort of what I've been doing for the last 3 years. Thank you.